Hello and welcome to the show. Guess what? We did it. We did it. Yes, Biden Harris. And you know why I'm doing that? Because what? I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Ski-wee. And so wanted to make sure that you know how excited I am. And I want to tell you viewers, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for always tuning into Tammy. And thank you for voting. We did it. Listen, just heard today, Stacey Abrams raised over $6 million. And that's to help the Democratic Senate race, the runoff that's happening with Reverend Warnock, as well as Mr. Ossoff. So I just want to thank you. Listen, we got to keep praying because our country, as I have always told you, has been in turmoil. Now, let's make America, what? Great again. How about that? I am excited. I tell you what, I've been waiting to tell you all this all week long. So many things are happening. So I want to get started by just saying that I want to thank my guest last week, Mr. Henry Ravenel, and of course, Dr. Lassiter for being with us. And I mean, it really helped me this week, especially with my mental health. But of course, Henry Ravenel, the CEO of the Southeastern Chamber of Commerce. And so again, I've been selected and I have the honor of being one of the ambassadors for the Nino Summit Part 2. And as you know, Nino Summit is the next gen entrepreneurship nonstop opportunities. And it's happening November the 18th through the 19th at Citadel Mall in Charleston, South Carolina. I hope to see you there. This is all about what businesses are going through and how they can help you get through this pandemic, because there's a lot happening out there. And third, now, you know, I've already talked about the election, but I got to go back to that. Biden Harris. 77 as of today, 77 million votes that our president elect received. Women are on the move. Black, brown, whatever colors you want to call us. We are on the move. And we did it, y'all. We did it. So let's keep up that momentum. Let's support our new administration that's coming in. And let's make sure that we have a stakehold in what's happening. And the way you do that is what we did. We voted. Thirdly, I want to talk about something that's very dear to my heart. This is National Adoption Awareness Month. I don't know if most of you know this, but I am an adopted child from birth. My parents, Dr. Catherine McCottry and Dr. Turner McCottry, who are now deceased and no longer with us, adopted me many years ago. And I'm here. What I want to say to you is there are a lot of children, infants, but more importantly, the older children who are 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, getting ready to age out of foster care. They need someone to love them unconditionally and someone who's going to say, you know what, I'm going to take that child into my home. That's what National Adoption Awareness Month is all about. And so I want you, if you're interested and you want to learn more about it, listen, you can always send me a message at info@tammymccottry.com. But I'm going to urge you as well to get in touch with your local adoption agencies. See what's out there. I mean, I was blessed. I mean, when I tell you I was blessed, I said before there were the Huxtables, there was the McCottrys. And I'm just saying that in sincerity of my mother and father, who my mother came from a single parent home, and my father's father was a Pullman's porter. So I want you all to really know how serious this is. And I'm going to be talking about this the rest of the month, but it's National Adoption Awareness Month. All right. So just look at me. I'm prime example. And I thank God for it. I bless the Lord every day. I thank him every day for the fact that I'm here and that I had the parents that loved me unconditionally and provided education for me, provided some of the things that some other children. But one thing I will say is that I'm very involved with Jenkins Institute. Jenkins used to be an orphanage, Jenkins Orphanage. Very involved with them. And they have children and had children through the years. And my father made sure that I was a part of that organization, and I've been there for the last many, many years. Okay. So if you can find somebody, and I always tell you this, bless somebody today. Put your hand on that person, call that person. You know, we can't touch and do like we used to do, but call that person and call your friends. Let's make America great again in more ways than one. Last thing I want to talk to you about is the coronavirus. Today, the totals of new cases are 144,350 plus cases. This is all over the United States. In your city, wherever you are, it probably is a hot spot now. But what I want to urge you to do is to wash your hands, wear your mask, social distance. When I say that, folks, it's important. I'm a microbiologist by trade. And when I tell you that this virus is serious, and when I tell you that the mutation of the corona SARS-CoV virus, the COVID-19 virus, is serious. Okay, it's more virulent than the last. So we have to be careful. And we've lost a lot of loved ones. I mean, I told you about my loved one that I just lost recently. And it was unnecessary. So whatever we need to do, folks, let's make sure that we make sure that we wash our hands, wear our mask, and social distance. Will you do that for me? All right. So again, I want to thank you for joining us. Listen, we've got a great show planned for you. You know, you all have been calling me all week. You've been emailing me, texting me, asking me, okay, Tammy, what's this show going to be about? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. It's about financial growth. We are calling it Resetting Your Finances. And to do that, I have the financial expert of all experts from AJM Financial, Miss Michelle Alexander. Come on out, Michelle.
Tammy.
Hi,
how are you?
Fine. How are you, Michelle?
I am blessed. That's exactly what I am. I'm really blessed right now. So I'm grateful for a lot of things, and I'm doing good. I'm good.
Good. I'm glad you're doing good. Listen, you're our financial expert, and I wanted you to come on the show and kind of talk a little bit about where we're moving to. You know, we're talking about resetting the finances. But before we do that, I want you to tell people a little bit about who Michelle is and give us a little bit about how you did all of this, finances. Because, you know, when you say finances to me, I'm like, ah!
Well, you know, it's funny because my story is really simple. You know, I tell people first off, I'm a financial literacy instructor based on experience through life. You know, when I was younger, I grew up in a single parent household as well. And, you know, a lot of conversation or the mindset was, you know, if you make more money, you know, you could do more. And I always thought, well, we could probably do okay with what we have. So to me, it's really about managing what you have. It's not just about what you make, because you can make $25,000 and you can make $50,000 and, you know, you still in a bind. So it's not about, you know, if I can make the 50, I'll do better. If you manage $25,000 terribly, I promise you, you will manage 50 just as bad. So for me, it was about, you know, showing that you can manage what you have on a small income. And I did that making $90 a week out of high school. I wanted to make sure that I, you know, paid. My mom said, look, you know, you can't stay any place for free. So I had to pay her $10 out of the $90. And I was able to use that money each week to furnish my room, save for when I got a real paying job and all of that. So I was able to do that at 17 years old. So my story really comes from a background of trying to get this straight, show people that you can do it. It's not hard. You just have to stick to it. You need discipline, and you're able to achieve that. If you do get let go from a job after 19 years, that you don't have to cry one day.
Wow. So, you know, that's a story in itself, Michelle, because you talk about the fact that you were on this job for 19 years and all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. What does that feel like? And were you prepared for that?
Well, actually, to be honest, it felt like freedom. I'm not going to lie to you, because it's no negative intention or anything against the job itself, but that wasn't what I was really called to do in life. And I was never happy in that role, whether it was there or any other company. So when the day came and I was told that it was time to leave, I was okay. It was like something released inside of me to say, hey, this is your time, it's a blessing, be grateful. And to answer the question of being prepared, definitely, because my goal was to, I want to leave anyway, so let me get my things in order. And that's what I had been doing. So you have to get your financial house in order for you to be able to make those kind of moves. If you're going to leave a job and you're not sure where income is coming from, and you want to start a business, and you just want to take, a sabbatical or whatever it is, you have to be prepared for that financially. You can't just say, okay, well, I'm going to leave and I don't know what I'm going to do. Some people do. I know some people take the leave, they may jump off a cliff, or they may do whatever. I'm not really one of those people. I need to know what's going to be underneath before I start jumping off a cliff. So I made sure things were in order so I didn't have to cry.
Right. Well, you talk about preparing, Michelle, and one of the things I think that people want to know, well, if she was on a job for 19 years, did she save a lot of money? What did you do? What were the steps that you did to really prepare yourself?
Yes, and don't believe that I have good gobs of money. I tell people in a heartbeat, it's not that, but I was able to make sure I was doing the right things along the way. So yes, I probably could have spent more, getting these things when you go to the store. I was thinking about that earlier today. You can go to the store and just buy what you need, or you can go to the store and buy everything you see. So take your choice. But for me, it was about cleaning up debt, getting rid of debt. I wanted to make sure I didn't have any debt that I had to pay anyone. So my student loans were paid off. And when I finished paying those off, I waited a year before I got a new car because I knew I needed one of those. I had the previous car for 16 years. So I knew in that time, instead of just getting a new one right away or spending that money frivolously because you have it, I decided to let me save. So when it's time to get a new car, I can get a good down payment on it. And I was able to pay it off early. So when it was time to leave this place, I didn't have any debt. I didn't have any student loans. I didn't have a car note, and all things were paid. So I didn't have to worry about that. And then I was, as well, at the same time, I was still saving to make sure I had enough, to get me through whatever period of time I need to at least, build my business. And I did want to take a little break. I'd worked for a long time. That job was 19 years. So I'd worked other jobs before that time. So I did those steps to get myself in order. So when you say preparing financially, that's what I was doing.
Wow. And I'm just thinking about people who are looking at this now, and especially for someone who's young, and they're saying, wait a minute now. She was able to do this, and she has money. She cleared up her debt. She paid off her student loans. Why is it that people find it so hard to really take care of their finances like that, to really save and get their finances in order?
Okay, to be honest, I'm gonna keep it real, Tammy. That's all I know how to do and what I know how to be. It's want. It's WANT. We live in a society where everything is at our fingertips, everything is in our face. So you go back, I want to say 50, 75 years ago. You didn't have everything in your face because televisions may not even been around 75 years. I forget how long they've been around, but at some point it was like in the 50s when you can get a black and white TV. So before that, everything was radio. You didn't have everything in your face. You didn't have YouTube. So you weren't able to see all the ads, search online, look at everything and everybody else who has everything. So it's want. We want everything we see. And when you want, you tend to go get it. Even if you sacrifice a little bit for it, and not on I want to say on a positive financial note, you're sacrificing. It's one thing when you sacrifice and say, hey, I'm going to not, buy this drink every day. I'm not going to, buy breakfast out every day. And I'm saving because I want to go on this vacation. It's like, well, I'm just like, well, I'll wait and pay that later so I can get this now. But it's really want and lack of discipline. So sometimes you do have to forego that impulse buy. Sometimes you do have to forego, maybe I truly can't afford this 4-bedroom house. Maybe I can't afford to have a BMW. Maybe I can't afford to whatever, fill in the blank. You get my picture. It's want. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have nice things. Don't get me wrong. We all want nice things. You have to be prepared for all that goes with it. You know, we talked about having a home the other day, and having a home is fine. It's a great asset for many reasons. And it is a great feeling to, you know, you own something, this is yours. But there's a lot that goes into home ownership. You have to be ready, and not just financially ready, mentally ready. Because remember, like I said, you know, when something breaks in your home,
that's right.
you get home maintenance. You are maintenance. You have to get it fixed, and you have to find somebody to do it, and you know, somebody reasonably priced, and you have to pay for it. So, you know, I look at all of those pictures. I told you my story. You know, I don't do wild animals, so.
Yeah, I know what, and you know, as you're talking about it, you know, anybody that's thinking about buying a home, they're going to be like, wait a minute now, let me rethink this. Let me rethink this. So let's do this. Let's talk about resetting your finances. And one of the things that you and I talked about off the air was about the importance of credit.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can't say enough about that. We've all remember. If you're not old enough to remember, say you were just born at that time, I can understand. If you were just born in 2008, you wouldn't know it. But if you were of any age, especially adulthood, you know, the recession was here. And a lot of that happened because of that subprime lending and the housing bubble and all of that. People being qualified for homes, you know, they couldn't afford. But it was just get them in the house, give them this interest rate, and it's out of my hands. You know that if you can't afford, I don't know, just say your house is a $2,000 note payment and your salary doesn't match that, you can't afford it. I don't care what they tell you can have. So eventually, if you're making those types of mistakes and you say, hey, they said I'm approved for it, because a lot of times, just like when apartment rentals, I learned that when I moved here, that they usually go by the gross income. And to me, that's a gross disservice, you know, because gross income really doesn't count because their taxes are taken out of that. You need to go by your net pay. Can I afford this out of this monthly salary? And that becomes part of the problem. So, you know, with the home ownership, it taking that whole route of having to make sure that you can afford to pay for this home, that is a big step. It's a very big step.
So what are some of the steps that people should be thinking about as far as their credit? What would you say the strategies that you need to really watch your credit and also do what you need to do so that it can increase? Because nowadays, that's it. Credit is it.
Yes. Well, one of the main things, and I teach this in one of my workshops about credit, is pay your bills on time. A lot of people think that if, you know, well, I'm just a day late, I'm just an hour short, $2 short, it doesn't matter. The clock starts ticking at 31 days. That weighs heavily on your credit score if you're late. It looks bad on your credit report if you're late. You want to make sure that you're making on-time payments. The other thing to get ready for home ownership is you definitely want to start saving. Here we're back at the savings again, because they're looking at what you have. Do you have skin in the game? Because someone's going to loan you money for this large, priced asset. So they want to make sure you have skin in the game, just like if you were to go qualify for any type of loan. So you have to have some money saved, and you can't touch it. You know, people think, well, you know what, I'm a little short because such and such, let me use. No, you cannot. You have to have that money set aside. So, you know, you have to pay your bills on time, have, you know, your money straight, and, have your savings straight. And you're not constantly going into your checking account either. You're constantly taking money out. And you want to minimize your credit card usage. That's another thing that gets people into a problem. They may have 5 credit cards, and, you know, a card may have $5,000. Another card is $10,000. Another card is $20,000. What the lender is looking at is how much money you have access to, not just how much money you have, but how much money you have access to. Because the first thing that happens if something goes wrong, like you lose your job, or, you know, if there's a medical issue that goes on in your family, or something, it breaks, like your car, and you have to get something fixed. The lenders are looking at, how are you going to handle that? Are you going to start dipping into your savings? Are you going to start using your credit? Now you're going to use up more of the credit limit. And they're looking at that because the more trouble you can appear to get into is going to be a problem. And trust me, they're looking heavily at that. And let me add this too, Tammy. Credit scores have changed over the years. There used to be, the minimum was maybe 550 or 600. You could get away with that, or 650. When Vantage Score came into the game, all of that changed. Now, like the minimum is like 700. So if you have a credit score lower than 700, you're already not qualified for a lot of things. So you have to be diligent in making sure you pay your bills on time. Don't open new credit cards because you get 10% off at the register. That's just for that day. What about the rest of the time you have the card? Don't go over your limit. And don't be at your limit. You need to be at least like 30%. So if your card limit is $10,000, you shouldn't have any more than $3,000 of debt on that card.
Wow. You've given us a lot of food for thought. I'm telling you, because this is a big thing now. Everybody's talking about credit. Everybody's talking about what they need to do to move those credit scores up. I mean, I was going through the same thing. I'm looking at it. Got to get it up, get it up, get it to that 700. But yeah, and that's important. That is important in the world in which we live in. So let's talk about. We've talked about credit, but I want to talk about budgeting, because it seems like, as you're talking about the things of being prepared and resetting your finances, budgeting seems to be one of the biggest and probably the hardest thing that people are having this difficulty dealing with. So what do you have for us with budget?
Create one. Most people will not create a budget because they feel like it's too restrictive. No, you have to create one, because that's going to tell you the truth of really what you're doing. Some people may not know exactly what they bring home because they may not be a W-2 earner. They may be a 1099 earner, and they don't really add up what they have. They just know maybe at the beginning of the year because they've tallied up something, or, they may have an accountant. They may have somebody working on, their finances to help them get that part, taken care of. But you have to create that. You also want to recognize where your expenses are. Where are you spending too much money? If you have to, when you create a budget and you list your expenses out, you need to be honest. You need to tell the truth about what you spend your money on. And that's where a lot of people go wrong, and they make that mistake. They'll just wing it and think that it'll be okay. And they can't figure out, wow, I really spent this much money. I worked with a group a long time ago. I did my first boot camp actually in my home, and I had about 4 ladies come. They came back every Saturday for 6 weeks. And one of the things I had them to do was to track their spending for 30 days. I don't care what you purchase, you had to write it down, little notebook, and now everything's smart but us. So it's a smartphone, you write it in the phone and just keep track of it and how much you spend. You'd be surprised how many little things you pick up daily that turns into weekly, that turns into monthly, that you add up and you don't even know where that money's gone to because you've never kept track of it. Having that budget helps you keep track and helps you to stay on focus, on agenda, on schedule, on point, on saving. You have to have savings in that. That's what people don't do. They think a budget is just about what you bring in or your income and utilities and or rent and housing, mortgage. No, it's everything. You may have kids' activities you have to add to that. You definitely need to add your allowance. You may need to add a line for lunch money because you buy lunch out. A budget will show you all of that information.
Yeah. And so, one of the things that I'm thinking about is the fact that people don't know how to create a budget. So what are those items that we need to put in as we're creating a budget?
Okay, so for creating the budget, you definitely want to have you want to list your income. Most people who are W-2 earners, just write down your net pay times 4. So if you bring home a check every week or every 2 weeks, I shouldn't say times 4 if that's weekly, but if you bring home a check every 2 weeks, you're getting paid bi-weekly. It's the total amount that you bring home. That's it. Now, if you get any other monies, I would say add that in as well. Some people do, they may be receiving alimony. They may have a second job. They may have other sources of income. Add that total amount in so you have a clear picture of how much money you actually bring into your home. Then on the expense side, all you're writing down is everything from household, like rent, mortgage, utilities, the light, the gas, water if you pay that, the alarm service if you have one, the internet service. Most of us have that now because we have no choice. All of those things go into your monthly budget. So on food side, it's not just about groceries that you buy at the supermarket. It's also about eating out. A lot of times that's what we do, or we used to be able to do. And if now you're doing takeout, you're still eating out. You didn't prepare the food at home. So that's part of food. Also, you have to have a section just not for, I want to say home maintenance, but insurance, because if you have a car, you're paying car insurance. And if you have, you may be paying for life insurance. What about your entertainment? To me, Netflix is entertainment. It's not a necessity. It's an entertainment. So, or any other streaming device that you pay for, it should be listed there. If you donate, you have charities. What about gifting? Gifting can be under the charity side or donation side, because the holidays are coming up. Those are gifts. You buy gifts for birthdays. People don't plan for those. They just spend as it comes, and then they wonder where their money went. That budget needs to account for every single thing, so you're not blindsided. So again, allowances should be on there as well, so you are not torn. I don't have any money to spend. Put you on the budget, just like you put everything else. Savings should be at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I used to do, I used to have different envelopes. Now, this was old school. This was back in the day. And I used to put money in the envelope. So I had this for my television, my cable. I had this for my rent. I had this for that. And I would put them then after I did all of that, then I'd look and say, well, I don't have anything left. And I did have a savings. I did have a savings envelope. And that was very important.
It is. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've been doing that since I had my first job. So when people ask me, when I bring that up in different seminars or workshops that I've done, they ask me about this other finance professional. Oh, you listen to this person, or I'm quite sure you know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing this way before I even heard of that, anything. So when I tell you it's a long time ago, I may not look like it, but it was. I was 18. And it was my first job, and I had to separate money because I got paid, I cashed my check, and I had this money in my hand. So I knew one thing was important to me, to be able to get back to that job to, so I can get paid again. And one of the things I needed to do was to make sure I had car fare, because back then, where I lived, I took the subway. So I had to make sure I put money to the side to be able to get tokens for the next, back then it was tokens. So I am dating myself. Back then it was tokens. So I had to get that for the next 2 weeks. So when I got paid again, I knew I could go back and forward to work. So if nothing else happened, if everything else was going, I'd still be able to get back to work. Then I also did this with another envelope that I would do for lunch money. So when I talked about the first job I got when I was younger and I made $90 a week, I started that process then, and I was 17. So I really started way before 18. I will say a year is just a year. But yeah, I started that process a long time ago. And I'm not sure, no one taught me how to do it. No one told me. The envelopes was just there. I just knew I needed to separate it. I didn't want to be the only person in the group sitting there watching everybody else eat. So I made sure I took out my lunch money for the week.
Yeah. I mean, all of those things that I learned, they were important. I can't tell you how I know it was parents, coming from old school parents. That was the main thing of how you save your money. So let's do this. One of the things that my producer said was Starbucks adds up. For all of those folks that are listening, Starbucks adds up.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started on those types of things, because I don't want to put down any particular company, because I'm in business too. So, I don't want to say you shouldn't buy this and you shouldn't buy that. I get it. We all do deserve a treat every now and then. But when you tell me you can't live without cable, or you can't live without Starbucks, or you can't live without something, I have an answer for that. I tell people, and I have this in one of my presentations, the only thing you can't live without is air. Because if you can't breathe, it's a wrap. Second behind that is water. I know I've read it somewhere before, learned a long time ago in school, that you can live longer without food than you can without water. So when you tell me what you can't do without, and it's some external stuff from the world, yeah, okay. No, that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. But you know, it's all in moderation. And I think that's the main thing, Michelle, that you and I have been that I see what you're saying. If you're going to have these things, we must do it in moderation. So don't go overboard. Just, you know, put your money aside, build that budget. And listen, we are going to reset. That's what I'm talking with you about. And I'm excited that you're on the show with me. So, you know, let's move on, because people are, when we talk about resetting, you talked about one thing that you did when you got your first job, and that was save. How do you really tell people about the importance of savings and what they need to do?
That's a loaded question, but one of the things I think about is, again, and I keep going back to this about not, being on a job and, being restructured out of it. And then, at some point, during that time, being out of work, I realized this happened to me before. This was not the first time. And it was years ago. And at that time, I decided to go back to school to get my associate's degree in management and business management. And it's funny, I didn't cry then either, because they told us in time. And I think at the time that we were informed that the company would be closing, we were going to be out of work by mid-year. And one of the first things I did, and I completely forgot about this, but one of the first things I did was I got rid of all store credit cards, because when I was younger, you couldn't use any card in a store. Let's just say Macy's, for instance. You could only use a Macy's card in a Macy's store. You could not bring in American Express, Visa, MasterCard, none of that. But somewhere along the way, things had changed. So I said, you know what? All the store cards, I don't need these. I'm going to get rid of these. I only need a major credit card because I can use that everywhere. And if emergency did happen, I'd be able to use that. I can't use Macy's to buy tires because I don't think they have a car shop, but I can use my MasterCard or Visa. That was one of the first things I did. And I was much younger back then. And the second thing is I started saving consistently. And I would make sure I had it in my budget. I would take the time to deposit it and make sure that it's in there. So I knew I was going back to school. I would probably be on unemployment. They would extend it because I was a student, and I was trying to make sure I had enough rent money to at least last me through that period. So that's what I was focusing on. So we're talking about, clearing credit, cleaning up credit you don't need, and starting that savings plan. So those are the first steps that I started making. And I think I've carried that over since then. And that has worked well for me. And also in helping other people, that I've worked with and clients. Let's start here with the credit. Then we can work on the budgeting. Then we can work on the plans. We have a spending plan and a savings plan, because everything is not just about saving. You can save, but if you spend it, you're not saving anything. So those are some of the first steps I would definitely talk about and getting people on the right track.
And what is your strategy, or what is it that you tell people about the percentage that they need to save? So if you're making, say, $1,000 a month, what do you say is the amount that you really need to look at trying to save?
So one of the things I think about on that is, a lot of people, when you say save 10%, they, their eyes get distant. You could probably see them that you've lost them, because that is so out of reach for so many people. 10% is not realistic. But I always tell people, save something. I don't care what percentage it is. If you can do 10, fantastic. If you can do more, even better. But if you can't do 10, do 9, do 8. Keep going, get to the percentage that you can save. And as long as you're saving something, maybe you can only do 1%. That's not a whole lot, but it's something. Because I know one thing, the last time I checked, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. So if you do 0%, guess what you end up with? 0%. So save something. So one of the other things I add to that is go automatic. I know people hear that all the time now, but I talked about this years ago. It's easier when you have the money taken out for you. Most companies now, they have payroll departments, or whoever the HR person is, you can fill out the form probably online, and you may have up to 3 to 5 banks or accounts that you can send money to. And some people do that. So it's automatically coming out of your check, going straight to the account you need it to go to, and you never touch it or see it. And that helps more than anything, because nowadays, who really wants to go to the bank? And forget about even before COVID, people just don't have time for whatever reason. They have families, they have businesses, they have life, so it's easier if it's done already. And now saving is not an afterthought. That's a big problem for us. Oh, I'll save it if I have anything left when I get done. That's not a strategy. That's just doing. That's not even doing. That's just doing nothing. So
That's right.
Automatic.
Yeah, that's just like tithing, Michelle, taking that off the top. And I mean, that's a habit that I've developed from a little child, just taking it off the top. And that's a part of tithing, a part of savings, because you got to pay yourself. As you said, you got to pay yourself. So you should be paying yourself first. One of the things that I know that comes up in conversations is about, if you're saving, would you say keep it at that bank, or would you say move it to another bank that you can't even touch?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, you can. It depends on who you are. Even though some people may not be in the best situation, they may be, they don't have everything together right now, but they're pretty much disciplined. You can have it at the same bank as long as it's not tied to your checking account, and as long as you don't have an ATM card where now if you do get in a bad bind, you can go to the ATM and get it out. You need to just leave it. Just leave it. But if you're the type of person who knows that you're going to go dip into it, put it at another bank, be online with the bank. Now there's no brick and mortar for you to go to. Again, you don't need an ATM card, because this is for your future. This may be an emergency fund. This may be what have you. And even saving for an emergency fund, I definitely wanted to say this. Some people are like, well, should I save 3 to 6 months? That's like a lofty goal, or 6 to 9 months. That's a lofty goal. Then have a different goal. Maybe the goal is, I just want to save 1 month's rent, or 1 month's mortgage, or 1 month household expenses. So if I do lose my job, at least I have someplace to stay for another 30 days. That's better than trying to say I save nothing because I can't get to 3 to 6 months, because that is a lot of money and it will take you a minute to get there. But if you don't start, you don't get there. If you don't walk, you don't move.
You don't get. That's right. That's right. Wow. Michelle, thank you. You are just giving us so much information, and I don't want to overload our viewers with all of the information, but there were certain things that we did want to talk about as we're moving into the holiday season is coming. Now, you and I have talked about this because you coach me on this. It's kind of late now. You're in the game. If you're just starting, it's late. But what can you say about people getting prepared for the holiday?
Well, one of the things I talked about and to you and, just going over in my mind the past couple of days is to tell the truth. We're all are in a bind at this time, because our world has changed. Tomorrow was not promised to us. What we have is not promised to us. Anything could be going on. So this is a time to hunker down. And I understand when people are in this situation, you're isolated from so much and people are dying around you. And I mean, literally, and all of this is going on. You want some levity to help, uplift to some degree. So the holidays are that time to do that. And, people have all gotten into the, mode of exchanging gifts, and such for the holidays. Go back to the old days, bring some of that stuff back and, just share that time, make it games and fun, and give people gifts that may be, it may not be so expensive, but it is meaningful to them. You can find a lot of nice things in stores like a TJ Maxx or what is the other one? Ross and Home Goods, things that somebody could really use. It doesn't have to be a $200 gift. And when I say tell the truth, you can also admit, this is not on your agenda. I was going to say you can't afford it, but in the light of we don't want to use the words that, we can't. You could always say something that this is not on the agenda. We're focusing on this right now. So we're not doing the gift giving this year. We're not doing this year, because you have to think about your detriment as well. Because tomorrow in the job world is not promised to us, don't spend that unnecessary money, because we weren't planning on being shut down. We weren't planning on losing a lot of jobs. I was out of work before COVID hit. So my job loss had nothing to do with COVID on the onset, but COVID still affected me past that time, but again, we don't know where this is going. So bring the fun things back. Have that sing a song, identify the Christmas song or unscramble the Christmas terms and, cook at home and, play games. Because you have a smart TV or whatever, you can pull up whatever you want and play games. It's big, it's loud. You can have all that fun at home. You don't necessarily have to go out and spend money that you don't have and you may need about the holidays. So that's for today. But future going forward, I did want to add to that because I know we talked about that, is prepare now. So while you're sitting around talking about this holiday, 2021 will probably be here. If not, then we won't have to worry about it. But if it is, start preparing now. Years ago, they used to have something called a Christmas club. I don't know if they still have it or not. I haven't seen it, and I don't know if people do that. But it was at the bank. You would go open it up. They would allow you to open it up for this certain amount of time, and you would deposit money like every month, whatever amount you deem necessary. So at the end of that time, which maybe it ends in October or November, you can go get your money and buy all the gifts you need. So if they don't have a Christmas club at the bank, make your own. Whether you save your money on your own in your home or you open a separate account at some bank and you do that, there's certainly, even if you go to a credit union, you can open several accounts and this can be just for that. And the idea of this is that, hey, you go and you buy things, make sure you're buying things on sale so you don't have to spend the whole budget. So if you only have $500, you don't have to spend $500. It's a good feeling to know you got everybody on your list, everything you wanted to get at a good price, and you still have some money left over. Because I'm about a coupon. I'm not buying from you if it's not on sale and I don't have some percentage off. So I can buy a designer bag when I go to the outlet, but when I walk in the store, I need to hear you say, oh, we got this 60% off. Because if you don't, I do this. I walk right around the perimeter. Ooh, that's nice. And I go straight out the door. I need both.
Wow, that's right. One of the things that you said, and my saying is, my resources or the resources that I have are not allocated for this expense at this time. And so that's one of the things my daughter always says, Mama, you got a way of saying things. I said, just let them know resources are not allocated for that expense and you'll get right out of it. One of the other things that you talked about was the Christmas club. Yes, they still do have Christmas clubs in the stores and in the banks. And our producer just let us know that. She typed it and said, yes, they still do. And I remember that, especially at the credit unions, they still have those Christmas clubs. But I love what you said, Michelle, about telling the truth. And you have to be truthful with yourself, especially now. You said get together, and they're telling us that we really don't need to get together with family because of COVID. However, we have Zoom, we have StreamYard. You can do the Facebook Live. There's so many things that you can do, as you said, Michelle, for us to watch what we have with our resources, especially right now, because it's unprecedented of where we are in our times now. And so I love that, and I thank you for that. But I want to talk to you before we go, because we've only got a little bit more time with you, Michelle. I mean, wow. Listen, let's talk about Tuesdays with Mimi. Tell us about that.
Yes, that's my YouTube channel. As you can tell, one of the things I love to do is talk. So, it's not a big deal for me to sit and have a conversation because we could talk another 2 hours about this stuff. And all the things I probably wanted to say when I said I was coming on the show and that I forgot about will come back around that time. But I definitely wanted to have a platform other than I am on LinkedIn. I'm definitely on LinkedIn on that social media, but I wanted to have another platform where I can share more of what I do, what I'm about, as well as for people to get to know me. Because as we said, this lockdown, I'm not going out to networking events anymore. And that's how I meet and different people and able to connect and network with them. But that's not an option now. So I said, what else can I do? So I said, you know what? I'm going to research, one of those people, I got to know the details and know this. So I decided to let me go on YouTube and just have a conversation and give people information or tidbits like tonight to say, hey, this is what you can do. It's not hard. You really can put yourself to do this. I've helped people who have told me that they tried this one thing and it actually worked. So I said, let me go ahead and do this. So I created a YouTube channel. It's Tuesday Talks with Mimi. And on that channel, I talk about various topics of finance. And sometimes, it may just be a life situation. I talk about credit, using credit wisely, good debt versus bad debt, not just versus, but how you can turn good debt into bad, home ownership, the real side of it, not just about, can I afford it? There are many topics out there, probably about maybe 10 or 11 videos out now, and I'll be posting one soon that's titled, Tell the Truth. You have to be honest with yourself in your own money, in your own budget. So again, like I said, list everything down. People like to hide stuff, when they eat, like you go to the doctor, you won't tell them everything that's wrong because either you're embarrassed or afraid or whatever. So, you'll get up, everything's fine, but you're limping out the door. Well, we do the same thing with our finances. People are there to help you if it's a financial professional, or what have you. They're there to help you. So you have to tell them the whole story so they can have a clear picture. We do lie to ourselves sometimes. I won't worry about this, so that's not important. I won't put that down. But that latte, as we talked about, the Starbucks or whatever, drink you may buy every day, or, a little snack that you treat yourself to every week is costing you. So I have Tuesday Talks with Mimi for that reason. And you can go to YouTube, and that's the name of the channel.
Tell us about AJM Financial, because that is your business. I've been promoting you, financial expert, and all that you're doing with your business. And tell us a little bit about how we can get in touch with you, and what are some of the things that you offer with AJM Financial?
Yes, AJM Financial. That's me. Those are my initials. So this business truly is my heart. It's what I care about. It's what I love doing. It's my passion to help people live a better financial life. So I do that through individual consultations. I do group seminars. I have a financial boot camp, which I'm seriously thinking about having again for 2021, especially with this pandemic that's going on, and we're all online. As you said, we're using Zoom for everything. I don't have all the details, but it is on the back burner. But yes, I do individual consultations. I meet with clients. We meet for an hour and a half to discuss what their goals and plans and dreams and all those things are. And then we start setting goals for those things. With the group seminars, I've done online presentations. I just did a presentation for a church in Chicago. Thank you, Zoom. For finance, it was called Borrow's Burden. They wanted to talk about everything debt. Like I said, the financial boot camp, that's a 6-week program that I have. And you come back every week, and you're accountable for a minimal amount of things, but it helps you to set that budget, create that budget, look at your credit, get your scores, get your reports, so you know what's going on in your life. That's one of the biggest things that we don't do, is we don't know what's going on because we didn't bother to look at it. Then we get into retirement, we talk about that, and we create smart goals. We create those spending goals and those savings goals. So you have that plan, you have that map laid out for you, and you have that accountability partner. So when you're done, you should be set to at least start the road, and then you'll probably be able to continue on, because I started that road a long time ago.
Yeah, wow. Michelle, I tell you what, I could talk to you for hours. And look, we have talked for hours before. So folks, this is Michelle Alexander from AJM Financial, and she's been with us just giving us those tips about resetting your finances and that financial growth and what we need to do. Michelle, I want you to kind of sum it up a bit and tell people what's the takeaway that you want them to use from this interview moving forward.
Yes, definitely know where you are financially. One of the main things you learn in accounting and in finances is about a net worth statement. And many people don't hear about it because that's not on the personal side. You can hear about it from some professionals, but us in the regular world here, you're like, what is a net worth statement? A net worth statement is what you have, what you own, minus what you owe, who you borrowed from, and then what's left over. If your net worth statement is in the negative, you have problems. And so I want you to be able to get from that negative situation, get from the red into the black, start that budget. Make sure you have a strategy for savings, have that savings plan, but also have a spending plan. And make sure you stay on top of your credit, because you need that for just about everything you do today. If you want to rent a car, need credit.
If you want cable, you need credit. If you want to buy clothes or, you know, like you say, if you want a credit card, you need a house, you name it, even the insurance companies now check your credit. Is that so? Isn't that right, Michelle?
So another thing about that, I had a conversation with a insurance agent, and they have their own scoring that they use, that they look at you for. So it's not just your credit anymore. People will deny you insurance if you have too many claims, you have all that other stuff. So keep those things down and make sure. I mean, they check your credit on a consistent basis. I'm glad you brought that up, because credit reports are made up too of hard inquiries and soft inquiries. Hard inquiries are when you go and apply for credit, and the soft ones are like with the, you know, insurance people. You know, if you're a customer of theirs, they're going to periodically check your credit. And if your credit is gone down and your score has gone lower, now they're going to raise your rates. Credit card companies will look at, if you're doing bad, they may raise your interest rate. So you get dinged every which way they can when you don't manage your money and you don't manage your financial life. I tell you, all of these things play into each other, and they're very important.
Michelle, well, one of the things that I know about you is that you are a great coach. You are a financial expert. You have given us food for thought. I mean, if folks aren't listening to this, I don't know what to tell them, but it's getting us ready for moving into the new year. I want you to come back in the new year as a financial expert to really talk about, you know, how that starts, you know, because everybody wants to set some kind of, what is it that you call it? A New Year's what? Resolution. Well, I don't do resolutions. I continue to just say new beginnings. And so we want to make sure that we get people on the right track as we move forward. So, you know, one of the things that I love what you said, Michelle, was tell the truth. So folks, if you're listening to Michelle Alexander of AJM Financial, tell the truth. Michelle, last thing you want to say, and then we're going to put you back in the backstage.
Yes, well, first I want to say thank you so much again, Tammy, for having me on your show. I appreciate it so much. And you touched on something earlier, I think, when I talked about, you know, you can't network anymore, you're not out and about. That's how we met, networking. We were out at an event. I was a vendor there. Tammy came to my table. We talked for a little while, and this was a few years ago. And here we are today on her show. So that's why it's important. You have to be set up for whatever comes. And again, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. Anytime you want me back, you know, I'm ready. Again, this is Michelle Alexander, AGM Financial, and definitely reach me at agmfinancial.com. Contact me. You can email, call, you know, there's a contact page, and you can put any message in there that you need for any help or assistance. And Tuesday Talks with Mimi on YouTube.
Michelle, I tell you what, I am just so glad that you were able to come on the show today. And I don't know what's going on. You know, it's been storming here. And so that could be why we have this echoing and all these things that are going on today, because of the weather. You're in Atlanta, and of course I'm in South Carolina. And so there may be that that's happening. But again, Michelle, I want to thank you because you tell the truth. You straight up. You don't pull any punches, and you have helped me in just the short time that we have reconnected. And I want to thank you for that. Come on back in, Michelle. Okay. So again, Tuesdays with Mimi.
Tuesday Talks with Mimi.
Tuesday Talk with Mimi. That's right. And ajmfinancial.com. Michelle, thank you, my darling.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. All right, folks, you heard it right here. ajmfinancial.com. You can get in touch with Michelle Alexander. And I tell you what, she has a wealth of information, a plethora of information that you are going to love to talk with her. She's a coach. She knows what she's doing. I've seen it, and I can attest to it. Okay, so please get in touch with her if you have any more information. Thank you, Michelle, for telling the truth. We all got to start telling the truth about a lot of things. That's why we're telling the truth about what? Yes, my soror. And of course, our president-elect and vice president-elect. What a wonderful, I mean, I can't stop talking about it, folks. I cannot stop talking about it because this is monumental in our history. We are making America great again. How about that? Yes. So listen, Next week, we're going to be talking with a college student. Now, this college student is very special because she's also from New York, Michelle, and my producer, who's from New York, she's also from New York. But the uniqueness about her story is that she is using her art and her talent to help her cope with the pandemic, as well as Black Lives Matter. She's a young woman. You're going to meet Nyla, and she's going to come on now. There's another name for her that my producer and her mother were best friends back in high school and all this stuff back in New York at the Performing Arts School. And these are all dancers and performers. And so Cha-Cha is going to be with us next week. Then, of course, we're going to have best friends that are going to come on. One of the best friends has about 3 companies. Another best friend has her company. And Miss Elvia Agurto will be with us. Oh, yes. You know how that is. Habla español, see? Mr. Brown. So y'all know I'm reading everything. But anyway, Elvia is going to come on. And her best friend is going to come on. They've known each other for more than 30 plus years. And they're going to talk about what this has done for them being separated during the pandemic, and for their business, how they are surviving in the pandemic. And Cha-Cha, like I said, she's a college student, accepted to one of the top schools in the country, and how she's dealing with that and not being able to be on the campus. She's studying online like everybody else. So I want to talk to her and hear about that and how she's using her art to manage all of that. So again, you can join us next Thursday at 7 o'clock. And again, viewers, you know, I always want to thank you. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the calls, the texts, the emails about watching the show and supporting the show. So this is Tammy, your story, your community. And before I leave you, I always have something that I want to leave you with. So the next time you decide that you are going to walk out without this, make sure you may not have an AKA mask on, but put on some kind of mask to protect you and the person that's there with you. If you'll do that for me, I'm going to say you all did it. Okay, so I'm getting ready to get out of here because I've got to wear my mask and I've got to go somewhere. And so I have to have on a mask. Listen, again, thank you, viewers. Again, thank you, Michelle Alexander of AJM Financial for joining me tonight. And thank you, viewers, the ones that have commented, and we love you and appreciate you. I want to thank you again. Everybody, remember, bless somebody today. Call somebody. Tell them that you love them. Okay? Take care of yourself. Until the next time, bye-bye.